Dr. Ohsumi,
Yeah.
it is an absolute honor and privilege to be able to sit here with you. Thank you for taking the time to meet with me. I know how busy your schedule is, and you have a large laboratory with many people working, and so many of your researchers have their own autophagy laboratories today. So again, thank you very much for having me.
Thank you.
I wanted to ask you a number of questions, but I
Yeah.
wanted to begin when you were a little boy. I've read that as a child you were malnourished, and you struggled in your early years to get the nourishment that you needed.
Oh, yeah. Because I was born in 1945. That was World War II was over. Before, half years before the end of the World War II. So in Japan, it was really hard time to get enough food. And unfortunately, my mother got the tuberculosis, TB, and she should stay in bed for a long time. And so it was a really hard time to get enough food. But at that time, almost all people are poor in Japan. So, so of course it was a difficult time, but so everyone overcome those kind of time.
Overcoming that at such a young age, you dreamt of maybe being a scientist. Did you know about the Nobel Prize at that time?
Yes,
you did,
I know,
right?
I know, but I didn't imagine anything that kind of thing. But yeah, I was not so healthy boy, and so my dream was become a scientist when I was really elementary school, probably.
Yes.
Yeah, because my father was working on Kyushu University, so it's not so far from university side. So I want to be a scientist in the future.
So your mind was able to sort of think about things in a different way than other scientists, and that creativity along with the science together really brought this about. And in 1988 you began your study of autophagy.
Yeah, one point, I do not want to be a competitive field, work on a competitive field.
Interesting.
Yeah, so when I started the vacuum, not so many people interested in the vacuum.
Right.
That's just a garbage dump in the cell. Many people thought that kind, but for me, probably might be important organelle, and not so many people working on that subject. That was a very good for me, because I'm not interested in the so competitive. Many people working on just like our autophagy field right now. So when I'm a student now, I might not work on autophagy.
Right. No, it makes sense. You know, when I think about all of the great discoveries and this understanding, in the U.S. we talk a lot about blue ocean. So this idea of blue ocean where there's nobody else and you have as much room to create and come up with new innovations, new science. So really it sounds to me like you were in your blue ocean and you had that in your mind. You were looking for that unique opportunity, and then had the capability to really think in a contrarian manner, perhaps, and begin the science. I'm very inspired by what you were saying about the amount of science from 1998 to 2016. We're going to talk about that. But before we go there, If you were to define autophagy yourself in today's climate, 2018, December 18th, how would you best define it in your words?
Okay. For me, I want to understand how a cell is dynamic, and actually, life is just the equilibrium state of the equilibrium between the synthesis and degradation. And not so many people are interested in degradation because, synthesis looks positive, but degradation, lots of people, that's some sort of passive process.
Right.
And not so many people work on degradation. But now we know their life is just the equilibrium state, the synthesis and degradation. So for me, degradation must be equally important than synthesis. Okay. So we should know the mechanism and function of the degradation process. So still we should pile up the mechanism of degradation. So, and also I want to say the degradation is equally important as synthesis. That means everything, almost every function of this, our body is related to the degradation process in autophagy. So now many people showing autophagy is related to what many things. For me, probably because degradation via autophagy is so fundamental function of the cell. So I'm still working on small tiny cell, yeast cell, but I am always say we know about 30% of the total mechanism of autophagy, even in yeast. So
Incredible.
I stick on the yeast cell.
So for 30 years, you've been doing this research, and you feel that there's about a 30% understanding.
Yeah, if you think about mammalian cell, that's a more sophisticated and complicated. So probably Nobel will say 15% of the total mechanism is known about the mammalian autophagy. So autophagy is really not so long history, but we are still quite early stage in the research. Yeah, that's my feeling on the autophagy.
You speak about the number of grams of protein that we ingest in a day, 70 or 80, 90 grams, but then the amount that we process. Can you speak about protein synthesis and autophagy?
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I always show there one slide. Our body makes 200 to 300 grams of protein every day. Okay. But we take 70 to 80 grams of protein from food.
Right.
So just two figures tells us most of the amino acid for new protein synthesis come from the degradation product of our own protein. So to understand the recycling of the protein is so important to understand the cell. That's my...
It's very, very interesting, because I don't think a lot of people realize how much protein our body is actually using on a daily basis compared to what we're consuming. And so it goes back to your point about really understanding the process.
So, yeah, for me, it's a surprising fact that almost all our body protein is replaced every 2 or 3 months. Almost, so we looks almost the same after 1 year, but every 2 or 3 months, all our protein are replaced the new protein. That the way life is maintained.
It's beautiful.
Yeah.
It's very beautiful. I began writing my book about 4 years ago while I was learning from Dr. Elizabeth Janda while I was in Calabria, Italy. And 3 weeks before I was meeting with the publishers, I was over the moon to learn that you had received the honor of the Nobel Prize in medicine for the work that you've done. How did you, I'm curious just to know a little bit more. Did you know leading up to it that you were going to win? Did you receive a phone call in the middle of the night? How did it go?
Not Japan. It's not that night. It's evening in Japan. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. These days, many broadcasts or TV company or newspaper company come to the day. So it's so many people is around me. So already 3 or 4 years, that was kind of the situation happened for me. So it's hard to say, but for me, it's so noisy and so
I understand.
Yeah.
But were you expecting that this would happen?
It's hard to say, but several people said you will have these 2 or 3 years before. Yeah, so of course I'm not seriously think about that, but so the situation around me is just like I said. So
right.
So yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about the science and where it was in 1998. Maybe we can even show the graph.
Yeah.
I'd love to show the graph that we were talking about. But tell us, so in 1998, when you began your research, how long did it take for the first paper to be published?
Yeah, it took 3 years.
3 years.
Yeah. Because one reason, I want to publish two separate papers. That was not good way. So we should arrange the paper. That one reason it took a long time, but it took too long time for me. But it's quite usual if you start with some thing new.
Something that it would take that time. And then if we fast forward to 2016, over 6,000 or 7,000 papers per year are being published. And now, certainly after the Nobel Prize in Medicine, there's probably so many more that are even being published.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
And so this effect of it's just overwhelming to think about the millions of people now in the world that are able to benefit from the work that you began in 1998 or even before.
Yeah, probably, as I said, the autophagy or protein degradation is so basic function of the cell. So to understand the cell or our body, autophagy must be involved. So many things. So I'm not. It's not. Naturally, we can say autophagy might be related. So many things not be found. So the reason that my work was influenced, and that just a finding of autophagy in yeast cells, tiny cells, but that allowed me to dissect the autophagy process. That means we could get the autophagy-related genes, and fortunately, we could get almost most important gene at the first screening, and that was very good for us to understand the mechanism of autophagy. And I moved to the NIBB. My colleague studied the autophagy genes in mammals and plants, and we showed the autophagy genes are well conserved from yeast to mammals or plants. And that was the most important thing for autophagy field. Before ATG genes, every analysis of autophagy was just morphological studies by EM. And as you know, ribosome is not so easy to analyze biochemically. So biochemistry was very difficult to, still right now, is very difficult. So once we got the ATG genes, so that changed landscape of autophagy research. You can analyze the autophagy by using ATG genes manipulation, autophagy genes knockout, and so that completely changed the autophagy research all over the world, and many people suddenly started autophagy in various kind of organisms and various kind of cell types and tissue organs. Finding discovery of ATG genes was so important for that kind of.
What are you most excited about when you sort of look at these spikes and the important findings around the field? What are you most excited about in today's climate as it relates to the field of autophagy and maybe the applications to humans?
Sorry.
What gets you the most excited about the field now as it relates to our human health?
Yeah. Still okay. Now many people are interested in autophagy to relate to the various kind of disease and also health problem. And I think that is quite reasonable because our cell is just maintain the as I said, the synthesis and degradation, and the degradation is so important. So our cell should be maintained, clean every time. So that is very important process for our cell. So autophagy is also is one function of autophagy is just recycling of amino acids.
Right.
Another important function of autophagy is elimination of the harmful or unwanted material accumulation in the cell. So those kind of cellular clearance must be very important to understand the health and some sort of diseases. So yeah, most probably still we don't have a specific medicine to regulate autophagy,
Right.
but that might be a good way to apply the autophagic research in yeah.
Do you think that medication, that area, will be coming forth sooner than later?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
That's really good to hear. Let's just see. I had a couple more questions. I was curious to know with the senolytic therapies. Are you familiar with these therapies at all? Yes. The senolytic therapies, like it's called with Physin or quercetin, basically these therapies, I'm not sure if you're familiar with them, but no problem if you're not.
Probably not.
Okay, no problem.
Okay.
Let me just see. So when we see how much research is coming forth and how you as one individual chose to take this path where other people were not, the millions and millions and millions of lives that will be truly, hopefully transformed so the cell is healthier and lives better is something that is completely and totally humbling. And I can say, from my point of view, but also from so many others, just such gratitude and thankfulness to you for making that choice. It's remarkable, and I am so incredibly honored to be sitting across the table from you.
Okay, yeah. For me, yeah. So. What should I say? Yeah. These days, of course, we have many serious problems about the food. Some people starve. Some people, even rich people, have their own serious problem with food. So it is very important to handle our own life, just their nutrition condition. So still we should learn a lot about how our body is working. Still we have poor information about how whole body are organized. And so very important question for me is our yeast cell is quite simple because they live just one cell. Still we have so many problems to be solved. And our body cell in our body is so much organized. And so every cell has its own function, a different function. So it is very important to know how those cells are harmonically communicate each other. Without, so autophagy, every cell has an autophagy function, but the problem is just the enhancement of the autophagy will enhance all cells autophagy. That might have the problem. So we need to understand how cells are communicating and how a different cell has different function, and finally we need to manipulate the autophagy in every types of cell. That might be important for medical application.
Right.
So some simply autophagy, inhibition of autophagy might not be help the health, because some cells are required autophagy, some cells should enhance autophagy. So still we need more works on how autophagy is regulated in every cell type at the same time. That my future hope to understand the mechanism of autophagy in our body.
Very, very interesting. So the questions that you ask yourself around your area, your life's work, are tied to, like you said, what your hope is, and what is your dream? What is your dream around your work?
Okay, yeah. I'm already quite old, so I don't know how long I will continue my work. So my hope is I want to have a really good quantitative method to measure the autophagic activity, and we need to have a good method to what is degraded, how much and how much extent autophagy degrade every component in the cell. So yeah, I want to have a biochemical system, analytical method to show those kind of things. Just using each cell, that will help to improve their some analytical method in our body, autophagy. That's my dream at this moment. Yeah.
That's beautiful.
Mm-hmm.